Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. We've got another one of these 1908 games for you here with Skeetersoft NPIII. For those of you who have tuned in and have no idea what I'm playing, that's what I'm playing, Skeetersoft NPIII. You probably haven't seen it before if you're brand new to all of this, but I've played quite a few games with it. And here's Johnny Evers for the Cubs, rolls a 42 for a 14 and gets the walk. This is not APBA, but it is sort of an APBA-related game, though there are a couple of things that are different. Eventually, as we go through time, we will introduce what is different and what is not different, but for very specific reasons, I've decided instead to talk first about national pastime, give you an idea of what the history is behind this stuff, because most people don't understand the history. In fact, as we've seen, we're learning a lot of new things about the history here that a lot of us didn't know before, including me. Joe Tinker up there now rolls a 46 with the hit and run on for a 29. That's a little ground ball over to BB. He takes it and throws over to first base for the out, and that puts Evers on at second base, and here's Frank Chance with a chance. And Chance up there rolls a 24 for 13 for a strikeout. First strikeout of the game for Fred Beebe. And as we're going along, I realize I don't have all of my directories that you can't see ready for this game. This is something that I've run into a couple of times here over the last couple of days because I get too excited about playing the game, forget that I have to get things a little bit ready too. So that's right. Johnny Kling up there now. Johnny Kling with 2 outs, runner on second base, and his roll is a 14. 14 winds up with a 43. That's a fly out over there to left field. Delahanty's got it. Jim takes the catch, and we go to the bottom of the first inning, and here is Red Murray. Cubs at 6-0, Cardinals at 2-4. See if the Cubs can stay undefeated or not. And Murray gets a roll of 32 for 26. It's a ground ball over to Evers at second base. Makes a throw to first for the out, one away. Up next is Al Shaw, who rolls a 33 for a 7 and gets a base hit over to right field. And that brings up Ed Kenichi. And we'll take a quick look at Shaw again. You know, I always like to do this and see if there isn't a first column 11. And here, in this case, there is not. So we're just going to go ahead and swing away, I think, with Kenichi. We're not going to try to bunt. There are people who are saying that you got to be careful bunting because you'll bunt too much in 1908. My experience, at least with NP3, is that if you bunt, chances are pretty good that the bunt will not turn out being a bunt. It'll be something else, and it won't count as a sacrifice hit. But your mileage may vary. With Kenichi, I roll a 54 for a 45, and that's a fly ball over to right field. Schultz has it for the out. There's 2 away. Here's Joe Delahanty, and Delahanty rolls a 64 for a 13, and that's a strikeout. We go to the top of the second inning. That brings up Jimmy Sheckard for the Cubs. He rolls a 41 for a 28. This little ground ball over to shortstop, and it's O'Rourke who has it, throws over to first for the out, 1 away. Harry Steinfeld now is up there, rolls a 33 for a 7. That's another base hit to a right field. Both teams now have hits in this one. That brings up Wildfire Schultz. We'll just have him go ahead and swing away, and he rolls a 13 for a 14, and that's a walk. BB has the W, despite that A, which means he's a little bit wild, and that brings up Jimmy Slagle. Question here is, do you bunt or swing away? I'm actually going to swing away with him. He rolls a 35 for a 40, and that changes to a 23. And interestingly enough, that ends up being a ball, catcher disputed, umpire decision, and is ejected for the remainder of the game. There's a rare play for you. That's one that you don't see all the time here in NP3, and that's a pretty interesting course of events. And rules like that 23 and other things are always a little bit odd. And let's see where I'm going to stick this one. Here we go. We'll have a little rare play folder here. Apologies for me as I get all this stuff sort of straightened out. And we're going to have to do a change here in the field for the Cardinals, and we're going to have to take Bliss out. And let's see who else we have. Of course, there's no rating that prevents this from happening to the catcher. I think we're going to put Hilskutter in there instead. There's no rating to prevent this from happening from the catcher. Just one of the sort of gamified things that happen in the game. We forget that from time to time. I know that we talk a lot about our analysis of these games. Sometimes we can forget that they are actually games and that game things do happen in games. Next roll for Slagle is a 56 for a 34. That's a little pop fly over to the third baseman, who is Byrne, and he makes the play for the second out. And here's Jack Feister, and he rolls a 64 for a 13. That's the strikeout number 2 for BB, and we go to the bottom of the second inning. Here's Billy Gilbert. Much ado about nothing, huh? Gilbert rolls a 46 for a 27. Ground ball over to Steinfeld, who throws over to first for the out. There's one away. Here's Patsy O'Rourke, and he rolls a 52 for a 27. And that's the same play. Ground ball over to Steinfeld, throws to first for the out. Here's Bobby Byrne now, and he rolls a 52 for a 27. Wow, 3 chances in a row for the third baseman. Steinfeld made them all. Go to the top of the third. Here's Johnny Evers, and he rolls a 56 for a 14, and there's a walk. That'll bring up Joe Tinker, and we're going to hit and run again as we did before. And the rule is a 14 for a 43, and that's a fly ball over to left field. Delahanty's got it for the out. That's one away. Here comes Frank Chance. And I'm just looking quickly at this card, trying to decide whether to hit and run or not. And I see the 44 and the 131, and I think I will hit and run. Might as well. And the rule is a 14 for a 43 again. Another fly ball over to Delahanty and left. 2 away now, and Johnny Kling is up there, and he rolls the same thing, a 14 for a 43. We do have a chance for an error, though, but the rule is a 23, which is outside of that error range, and so that ends up being a fly out to Shaw, the center fielder, for the out. Reason why that happens is so your center fielders get just a few more chances. It's part of the ingenious nature of the NP3 system. Here's Art Hoskutter, who wasn't starting as catcher, but had to come in after the prior catcher, whose name slips my mind, was so unceremoniously tossed from the game. Hoskutter goes up and promptly hits a base hit, and Bliss was the name, by the way, of the other catcher. I should probably look over here at my game log. Hosskutter's at first base, and BB's up there, and you know he's going to bunt with a card like that. And his roll is a 46 for a 29, and that's the bad kind of bunt. That's a little bunt that goes over to Chance at first. He throws over to Tinker, covering the bag at second for the force out. Brings up Red Murray now with BB, the pitcher, on at first. After the fielder's choice, we're just going to swing away, and Murray rolls a 66 for a 0, and the next roll is a 14 for an 11. Base hit for Murray, and that sends BB all the way over to third base, and then Murray gets the stolen base as Albert Shaw's up there, and now the Cardinals have a chance. Third hit of the ball game for the Cardinals, and his Shaw's roll, rather, is a 56 for 32, and that is a fly ball over to right field. It is Schultz making the catch. Tagging up his BB, who's in to score, and that makes it a 1-0 game here for St. Louis. And that's we're still real early in this ball game. It's in the third inning, but I've been waiting a little bit here to see if the Cubs weren't finally going to lose one, and it looks like this just very well may be the day that we finally see the 1908 Cubs lose, but you never know. It might happen, it might not happen. 1908 Cubs, by the way, you'd think, looking at the team on paper, that the Giants would be the clear favorites in this team, in this year, but these Cubs are pretty good and have a very good offense. Kenichi now is up there. Rolls a 54 for a 45. That's a fly ball over to center field, and it's going to be Slagle who pulls that one in for the out. We go to the top of the fourth inning. Here's Jimmy Sheckard. Sheckard up there rolls a 25 for a 10. That's a base hit to center field for Jimmy, and that brings up Harry Steinfeld. You'll notice that 10 here in NP3 is only a base hit, doesn't have the stolen base portion of it that you sometimes associate with the 10 in the other games, but we haven't gone quite far enough yet to analyze everything. I think we're actually going to bunt with Steinfeld. Rolls a 65 for a 35. That results in a walk because of the W. This is the reason why I say sometimes you have to bunt a little bit more with some of these games to get your realistic number of sacrifices in, because if you're not careful, I know from experience, you can wind up with a whole season or almost a whole season played, and you're like, I never bunted. What do I do? That's why your batting averages are off or whatever it is that you're looking at. So be careful with it. Schultz is up there now. We're going to bunt with him again. Rolls a 61 for a 32. That's a bunt over to the third base line. Byrne grabs it, throws over to Gilbert covering at first base, the second baseman, for the out. One away now, and here's Jimmy Slagle, and we are going to bring the infield in. We're actually not going to bunt with Slagle. Let's see if he can get one of these infield hits. Looking at the card, I think we'll just swing away with him. He rolls a 65 for a 35. That's a walk, and I was about to say you can forget about the whole thing, but actually you can't. Feister's up there now. We know that we're going to bunt with him with the pitcher, and we're going to bring the infield in as well. And the rule is a 62 for a 12, and that is exactly what you didn't want to see. That's a little bunt that goes all the way over to Byrne, the third baseman. He throws home for one to Hoskutter, throws back over to Kenichi at first base for the double play. That's exactly what I was bringing up. In fact, I kind of wanted to write about this, and I might here in the future. When it comes to bunting in these dead ball era seasons, it depends on the game that you play, and it depends upon how the flow of the game works, right? If you're playing with games that maybe don't have quite the same sort of focus on sacrifice hits, maybe you should be careful you don't bunt too often. But with some of these games, yeah, you bunt a lot, but as you go through the game, you realize that a lot of your bunts end up turning into double plays or into walks or into things that are not sacrifices. And so your sacrifice totals are still kind of low, and you have to bunt more often than you think you do. Joe Delahanty up there now rolls a 13 for a 40. That's changed to a 38. That's just a ball. Doesn't matter either way. Delahanty still up there, rolls a 61 this time for a 27. That is another ground ball over to Steinfeld. Throws over to first for the out. There's one away, and here's Billy Gilbert. He rolls a 46 for a 27 over to Steinfeld again. There's got to be something about these dice. Patty O'Rourke now rolls a 33 for a 7. That is a base hit to right field. Finally gets it to go the other way, and that brings up Bobby Byrne. Hit number 4 for the Cardinals. Bobby up there now rolls a 56 for a 34. That's a high pop out over to the shortstop Joe Tinker. Makes the play. We go to the top of the 5th. Here's Johnny Evers. Rolls a 23 for a 13. That's a strikeout, and that is strikeout number 3 for Beebe against 5 walks. He belongs in 1949. Joe Tinker up there rolls a 62 for a 12. No walk on this because there's nobody on base. Next rolls a 35, which is out of the range, and that ends up being a ground ball over to Kenichi, who does it himself, 2 away, and here's Chance. Chance rolls a 46 for a 13, another strikeout, number 4, and it's amazing for Beebe, who doesn't have a strikeout rating, so it can't happen. Go to the bottom of the 5th inning, and here's Art Huskutter again, 1-0 Cardinals with the lead, and he rolls an 11 for a 0, and we're going to get another roll, and the next roll is a 53 for a 6, and that is a double to right center field. Huskutter ends up on second base, and that brings up Beebe again, and it's time to bunt. And he'll roll a 14 for a 43, and that's a little bunt over to the left side. Steinfeld grabs it, throws over to first to Chance, who's covering. Interesting that he's throwing to first, not to second. Not sure if that's a mistake or not. Doesn't matter either way. That makes one away here in the bottom of the 5th, and Red Murray comes up, and we're going to re-roll that. Sorry, that was out of the range. And it's actually the same roll. He rolls a 62 for a 12. I suppose I should probably bring the infield in, which would make sense. A 62 is doesn't matter either way. The 12 result is a fly ball over to right field. Schultz has it, and then he throws to home, and Kling makes the tag on Holscooter, who's really slow, and gets the out. We go to the top of the 6th inning. Another Chance goes begging, and here's Johnny Kling, and he rolls a 22 for a 7. That's a single to right field. Jimmy Scheckert is up there now. We're going to just swing away, not worry about hit and run, and he rolls a 15 for an 11, and that works as well as a hit and run. Scheckert sends Kling to second, and then third, and then gets the stolen base of second, and that brings up Harry Steinfeld. In comes the infield. Steinfeld will be swinging away. He rolls a 25 for an 8. That's a fly ball over to over to Shaw in center field. Looking at the wrong team, I am. And Shaw makes the catch, but that one is deep enough to score the runner, and just like that is a 1-1 ball game. And this is the way, by the way, that you would imagine 1908 to be, isn't it? You would imagine there to be a lot of there we go, Steinfeld. You would imagine there to be a lot of sacrifices, a lot of really close games, as we've seen, and you would imagine that there would be a lot of this sort of thing happening. Oh, I did get Steinfeld on that. Good. Sorry, just looking at my screenshot. That brings up Wildfire Schultz now with 1 out. We will bring the infield in again. Again, we're not going to bunt. I don't really see a reason to bunt in this situation, and he rolls a 66 for a 0. And the next roll is a 65 for a 7, and there's the base hit, and that will score the runner, and the Cubs are up again. So much for my thought that maybe the Cubs will lose one here. They have come back from behind and are looking pretty good to win. So anyway, one of the things that people say who play Skeetersoft NPIII and who enjoy it is that seasons like 1908 that are hard to replay feel right. I don't know, you can tell me what you think about the feel. That's a real sort of personal thing. Slagle rolls a 22 for an 8, and that is a ground ball over to Byrne at third base. Throws to first for the out. There's 2 away. Schultz moves to second. Feister's up there now. Rolls a 56 for a 34. That's a pop fly up to Gilbert. He makes the play, and we go to the bottom of the 6th inning, and here comes Albert Shaw once again. Al Shaw up there rolls a 51 for an 8, and that's a ground ball over to Tinker at shortstop. Throws to first for the out, 1 away, and here's Ed Kenichi. Rolls a 61 for a 41. That's changed to a 23 with the little randomizer. That ends up being an error on Huskutter as he throws wildly after the swinging bunt by Kenichi, and that brings up Joe Delahanty with a chance to do something here. 1 out here, bottom of the 6th. And Delahanty rolls a 16 for a 26. It's a ground ball over to Evers, flips over to Tinker. They get the force play, and Delahanty replaces Kenichi, that is, at first base. 2 outs now for Billy Gilbert, and we remember this guy. Love looking at this guy's card. He rolls a 32 for a 26. That's a ground ball, this time over to Evers, flips to Tinker. That does it. We go to the bottom, or to the top rather, of the 7th. And Johnny Evers is up there now, rolls a 22 for an 8. That is a ground ball once again to O'Rourke. Throws to first for the out, 1 away. Here's Joe Tinker. Rolls a 46 for a 29. That's a ground ball back to BB, the pitcher. Throws to first for the out, 2 away. Frank Chance now. He rolls a 24 for a 13, and that's a strikeout. We go to the bottom of the 7th now. Patsy O'Rourke is up there. Patsy rolls an 11 for a 0, and here comes the next roll, and it's a 41 for an 8, and that's a single. Kind of a wimpy result there for the double columns. I'm just looking through everything. I see a lot of 11s, a lot of 6s. I mean, at least get a 7. And 8 is not exactly his best result. Runner on first base now for Bobby Byrne, who has to bunt. See, this is where I'm talking about the bunt. You're looking at this guy, on-base percentage of 237, slugging percentage of 212. He's got nothing. You got a couple of potential base hit numbers, but remember, we're up against a C, so we have to worry about these 9s. We could theoretically get one of these 8s, but they have caught stealing attached to them, which is also not good. What we'd really be gunning for if we're having him swing away is like an 11, a 15, or maybe a 66. But other than that, a lot of these other key numbers like 35 is 13. You know, we're looking at a lot of 31s to 39, a lot of results that we really don't want. So we're going to bump with him. That's how I read that. The roll is a 64 for a 27. That means that he misses 2 opportunities to bunt. So we do have to deal with the card after all. We'll take the bunt off. And the roll is a 25 for a 9, and that's going to be a ground ball over to third base. Steinfeld has it, throws over to first for the out. That does move Patsy O'Rourke up, though. That brings up Huskutter again. 1 out here, bottom of the 7th, 2-1 ball game, and we're going to have him swing away, and his swing away is a 21 for a 30, and that's a little quiet fly ball over to Sheckard in left field, and that's the 2nd out. That brings up Fred Beebe, who's been pitching pretty well. And his roll is a 32 for a 26. Of course, it's a ground ball to Evers, throws to first for the out, and we go to the top of the 8th, and here comes Johnny Kling. And Kling up there rolls a 53 for a 19. That's changed to a 22. That's a comebacker over to Beebe that he bobbles and misplays, and that puts Kling over on at first base. That brings up Jimmy Sheckard now. I think we're just swinging away instead of hitting and running. The roll's a 16 for a 28, which is a ground ball over to O'Rourke. He throws to first for the out. Kling moves up, bravely, I would say, over to second base. Here's Steinfeld, and the Cubs have 2 chances to drive in another run. Steinfeld rolls a 32 for a 26, which is a ground ball to Gilbert, and he throws to first for the out. Kling moves up forward, and here's Wildfire Schultz, and he rolls a 52 for a 27. Ground ball over to Byrne, throws to first for the out, and we go to the bottom of the 8th. I tell you, watching Kling there moving from station to station reminds me of playing chess and watching the opponent's pawn trying to sneak up 1 square at a time, hoping to get to the end before he runs into checkmate. We go to the bottom of the 8th inning. Feister doing fairly well in there, only giving up the 1 run on 6 hits. And here's Red Murray, top of the order for the Cardinals. He rolls a 16 for a 28. Ground ball to Tinker, throws to first for the out. 1 away. Here's Albert Shaw. He'll roll a 36 for a 33, and there is a little E potential roll, and the roll is a 35, which is out of the range. That ends up being a pop-up over to Evers at second base, 2 away, and here's Ed Kenichi. And he rolls a 56 for a 32. That's a fly ball over to right field. Schultz has it for the out. We go to the top of the 9th inning now. Jimmy Slagle, and this is going to be potentially exciting. Slagle rolls a 26 for a 27. That's a ground ball once again to third base. It is Byrne who makes the play for the out, 1 away. There is Jack Feister now. We'll leave him in the ball game. He rolls a 43 for a 29, and that's a comebacker to BB. Plays it right this time. Throws to first for the out. 2 out, and here's Johnny Evers. He rolls an 11 for a 2. And the next roll here is a 44, which will be a 2 for a triple. 11 for a 0, rather. Second column would have been a 2. And that puts Evers here on third base with 2 outs, top of the 9th, and Joe Tinker up there. And he rolls a 31 for a 9, which is a fly ball, again, out to Shaw. He makes the catch. We go to the bottom of the 9th inning, and here's Joe Delahanty. And the Cardinals, if they're going to do it, they better do it now. Delahanty rolls a 44 for an 8, and that's a single to left center field. And that brings up Billy Gilbert, which means it's time for a pinch hitter. And who do you put in? Who did we put in last time we had this situation? I think actually we put in Ed Carger. So we could put in Carger, we could put in Barry. I think we'll put in Shad Barry this time. And we'll leave Carger for what will happen if we get all the way down to the bottom of the order. Shad Berry comes up there, and we're just going to swing away with Delahanty being slow. The rule is a 51 for a 9, and that's a ground ball over to Steinfeld, who makes the play over to first base for the out. One away, and that brings up Patsy O'Rourke, and he's as good as anybody on the bench. Let's just leave him in. Patsy rolls a 23 for a 32, and that's a fly ball over to right field. Schultz has it for the out, 2 away. And here comes Bobby Byrne, and I think we do need to do a pinch hitter here. Let's see if we have anybody who hits a little bit better than him, thinking in terms of on-base percentage, and I think we will bring in Carger as a pinch hitter. I haven't actually looked to see if Carger has been a pinch hitter in real life or not, but he has for us twice so far in this replay. And his roll, is a 33 for a 7, and that is a single to right field, and that will score the runner. Did I tell you I'm a genius? If I didn't, I'll tell you now. I'm an absolute genius at this game. And that will do it, and this is a real exciting ball game. I'm actually making sure to take screenshots this time for this exciting one. I had an exciting one with Diamond Mind actually just yesterday that I should have screenshot and didn't screen shoot it, and that's a problem. Here's Art Hulskutter now. He rolls a 26 for 27, and that's a little ground ball over to third base to Steinfeld, flips over to Evers for the out, and we have to do a little bit of changing here. So let's see what we have here. Carger needs to be the new pitcher. So we're going to change his position, make him a pitcher. See how I do this? You click change position, click pitcher. There you go. That means that he's a pitcher. We now have 2 pitchers. This was the second baseman slot. Actually, I wanted to look really quick and see. Okay, so he's not able to play but he can play short. This is where this becomes a little bit tricky. Patsy O'Rourke, unfortunately, can't really play another position. So we'll have to take Barry out for another second baseman, which is going to be Chappie Charles. And so Charles will come in there, and then we have another lineup hole to fill. See if we can figure out what it is. Let's see, first, second. We need a third baseman is what we need. And let's see what we have, if we have anything. We don't have much of anything at all, do we? We should have something here somewhere. So this is going to take a little second for us to take a quick look and see. Charles can play third, but do we have anybody else who can play second? Not really. We have a bunch of catchers. So let's see here. I'm going to take a quick look and to see. He can't do it, and he can do it. So we're going to change Al Shaw over to third base. Apologies for the wait, but this does happen sometimes in this game. I've actually had this happen to me before. And then we need somebody else who can play center field, and that's going to end up being Marshall. So, okay, yeah, this is one of the problems that we have here. So Marshall, who gets a 0 rating as a pitcher, we have to change his position after we put him in. One of the sort of weaknesses of trying to do a double switch here on NP3, but I think we have it set up correctly. And here's Art Hulskutter here to start off the top of the 10th inning. I'm sorry, not Art Hulskutter. I'm sorry, it's Frank Chance. Chance of the rolls of 36 for a 14. No, that's not correct. All right. Yeah, Carger's the pitcher. It's a 36 for 14. That's a walk. Chance walks. He gets to first base. That brings up Kling, who, as you notice, I have hitting in the cleanup spot. And we're going to hit and run. He rolls a 44 for an 8. That's a single that sends Chance all the way over to third base. And that puts the Cubs in a pretty good position here. That brings up Jimmy Sheckard here, nobody out, and they're going to have the infield come in, and Sheckard's going to swing away. His roll is an 11, and this is not going to be much of a ball game for long. The next roll is 21 for a 6, and there's a double for Sheckard. And now it is Cubs 4 and Cardinals 2, just like that. That didn't take much time at all. The thing that took most of the time was me trying to figure out how to make the correct substitutions for the double switch. And so it looks like the Cubs are on their way to winning their 7th in a row. Harry Steinfeld now rolls a 45 for a 14 and walks, and that's going to be it for Carter, who has not been anywhere close to throwing a strike so far in this one. question is Lush or McGlynn or Sally. I think we'll do Sally. Now, one of the problems that I'll note with this that I think we're going to talk about a little bit more is that I can't look anywhere on here as to what the players have actually played already this season. And so we'll take a look at that, I think, in a different video here and see if we can figure out what we can figure out. Schultz up here facing Sally rolls a 46 for a 27. That's a ground ball over to third base. Shaw makes a play, throws over to first for the out. There's one away, and here comes Jimmy Slagle now with runners on second and third. Slagle will just swing away. He rolls a 22 for an 8, and that is a single scoring both runs. Slagle ends up being thrown out trying to steal second base, and here comes Jack Feister. 6-2 now Cubs. And Feister rolls a 66, and the second roll is a 63, which is a single to left field, and he ends up with the stolen base. Interesting on that. I don't know how many stolen bases Feister had in 1908, and that brings up Johnny Evers. Rolls a 45 for a 14. So these Cubs are getting all of the offensive rolls and are hitting very, very well this inning. Joe Tinker rolls a 13 for a 39. That's changed to a 40, which is going to be a little ground ball past the pitcher over to Charles, and he makes the play over to first base for the out finally, and that does it. And here comes Doc Marshall here in the bottom of the 10th inning. He rolls a 24 for a 13, which is a strikeout. Only the second strikeout of this game by Feister. Next up is Murray. Red hits a 32 for a 26. That's a ground ball over to Evers. Throws over to first for the out. 2 away, and here's Al Shaw, who's the last chance for St. Louis, and he rolls a 43 for a 29. You can forget about it. That's a comeback over to Feister. Throws to first for the out. That does it. An exciting ball game up until really the top of the 10th inning, and that kind of did it for us. And so despite the comeback attempt by the Cardinals, it's just not enough to deal with the power that the Cubs have. 6-2 is your final score, and I hope you enjoyed that. I'll have more exciting action for you tomorrow, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.